What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Off the Record. We love Off the Record. We're going to keep talking about them as long as we live over here. What Off the Record does is if you get a ticket anywhere in America, okay, any kind of moving violation, Off the Record will help you fight it. They'll connect you to a qualified attorney in the jurisdiction where you got that ticket, and that attorney will help you get those points off your record. It might mean complete dismissal, it might mean a reduction to something with no points, but they can almost always help, and you don't want those points on your record. It could mean affecting your insurance, it could mean affecting your employment, it could mean affecting all kinds of things. Trust me, it is worth it to do what you can to get those points off of your record. So go to offtherecord.com/TST or use code TSTPOD. That's TSTPOD on the Off the Record app. They will be able to help, and our code will get you 10% off all legal services with Off the Record. So go to offtherecord.com/TST or use code TSTPOD on the Off the Record app. Check them out. All right, folks, on today's episode, Zack and I review the Volvo EX90. I got fired at the last minute from a gig. We talk about that. Kind of sucks, if you ask me. We took the Spider up the hill to good vibes, and we have a little bit of a chat about the state of advertising on our little channel and business here. It's not good. Let me just tell you, it's not great right now, but hopefully it will get better. And we've got a lot of questions from our Patreon, which is how we got to that. If you want to support the show, patreon.com/the Smoking Tire Podcast. You can get an ad-free listing experience. You can get the show ahead of time. You can watch the live stream. You can ask us questions. You can get an extra show every month. There is a lot there to love about the Patreon. Plus, it keeps this podcast going. It's a crew show. Let's do the Smoking Tire Podcast. Wow, this McLaren Elva just sold for $1,033,000. That took a fucking huge dump.
What are those?
They were $2 million bucks new.
Oof.
Yeah, that's not great. I mean, those were gonna be. They were gonna be bad. I mean, yeah.
You know how I know that was the Jag car alarm? I think there was an era of car alarm where they weren't really loud enough to get attention.
To annoy
That's
everybody?
A very polite alarm.
Right.
You know, it's like a nice neighborhood, and they don't really want to bother the neighbors, but I mean, that was just above parakeet volume.
Yeah, it was not quite loud enough to be loud. All right.
Elva. I saw in Monterey, I saw one of those. What was the Ferrari with the no roof? They're
no windshield?
Yeah, no windshield, no roof.
SP1 and SP2?
Yeah, I saw one of those.
Yeah.
I really like them. I really like the photos of them when there's no one in it. But there's something about seeing the driver in it that made it
looked a little awkward.
Look weird. I don't know what it was.
There's a lady who owns one and drove it to Pebble Beach last year, and she was staying in the same hotel as me, and she had a pink sparkly like helmet that she wore to drive it around, not covering her face, like just like a what's the word?
Open face?
No, no, it wasn't an open face. Like a Harley rider would wear.
Like a yarmulke, but a helmet. No, I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? What do they call them?
Pit helmet.
Why can't I think of the
pit helmet? Pit helmet?
No, it looks like a
skull cap.
No, a skull cap is like a knit cap.
Oh yeah.
It looks like a fucking like Nazi war helmet.
I think it's a pith helmet.
Is that what it's called? Pith? I've never heard that term before. I feel like I'd remember that. Like the Harley, but I think everyone knows. Like your ears are not covered. It goes over. You know what I mean?
I know what you're describing.
Like a little helmet. Like a helmet that you should not wear to ride a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Because you will fucking have a horrible
half
face
helmet.
injury.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Harley Davidson calls them a half helmet.
Yeah, but it's that. But it was sparkly.
Okay.
If you're a woman, a woman driving a $2 million Ferrari, as long as you're like, you're gonna look better than the average man that is buying $2 million Ferraris.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, that's true. And the person who was driving this car was like very tall, and they had a helmet on also, so they just looked too big for the vehicle.
Yeah.
And that whole like low low cowl because there is no cowl. Like all of that was gone.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was almost like an illusion was broken.
Wearing a helmet in a car on the street is not luxurious.
No.
So like if you have to, that's the problem with these cars with no windshields, is like you can look cool driving one and not wear a helmet and, you know, take something to the face and have a serious injury, or you can be safer with a helmet and you look like a loser.
Yeah. It's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why when I drove the Elva, I only put the helmet on for the highway. That was my risk management.
I get it.
Yeah.
Because up in the canyons, there's not as many cars.
Yeah, and when I drove the Morgan three-wheeler, no helmet.
Yeah.
Other than we did word for the video.
We did.
Because you have to set a good example and you don't want to get yelled at.
Yeah.
Other than that, no helmet. With the Elva, I did not wear a helmet in the video.
Also has the air scarf, which will take all debris up and over you.
No air. Is that no?
Not
it's
air
not air
scarf.
scarf. It's like air
Dam.
bounce, air dam thing, which worked really
Yeah, it
well.
did.
Turns out those people at McLaren smart.
You know what works great though? Windshield.
Well,
No disrespect to
You know
McLaren,
what works
but-
badly? An Elva with a windshield. An Elva with a windshield is also a 720S.
I was going to say that's a car.
No, it's a 720S. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was an optional windshield on the Elva.
There was?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't. I thought you were making a joke.
No,
of
no.
converting it to car.
You could get Elva with a windshield.
So it would just be limited. It would be the limited of the limited.
It just looks dumb. It's
Right.
it's a 720 Spider that's 4 times the price.
Right. Removes the novelty. But also you could say like I have the only Elva that has a windshield, and that's the marketing. Look, when we drove
The reason we started this
today,
conversation is because there's an Elva in this sports car market with no windshield that sold at auction for half of its MSRP. It lost $1 million in value. Yeah, and maybe in 50 years they'll be worth a ton of money. That's possible. It's usually how it works.
Yeah.
Very high-end niche car, didn't sell well originally, less than projected. That's usually the formula. But if you look at one with a windshield, it looks real dumb.
Find one.
It won't be very hard. A couple of the press cars had windshields. I think there were certain markets that required a windshield. Like I think they made it for. See, what you have there is a 720 Spider without a roof, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's more or less.
So it's a 720 Speedster now.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, basically.
Huh. The windshield looks too upright there compared to the Speedster.
Yeah, it looks
slope.
kind of silly. It's
Dude,
not good.
We drove your Spider today, and when we put our hands up out into the wind just to feel it, a bug hit me immediately. Like that's what you're going to experience with the Elva. Is just
Windshields?
nature engagement.
I mean, in general, windshields are good. I've always had a pretty good time in a car without them. The Elva, without a windshield, is an amazing experience. Is it a $2 million experience? It's a niche thing, and I know why people might not want one. I get it. Mm-hmm. But it is the only McLaren ever that feels like it's going faster than it's actually going.
Yeah.
And that is a nice thing.
Well, it's the motorcycle effect, right? You're just getting hit with literally more sensors or more sensory input.
Yeah, 100 in an Elva feels like 200 in a 720.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Full 100 miles an hour of wind to the face.
Yeah, you can
Feels fast.
see the video of me doing that to see exactly what that feels
What's
like.
the fastest you ever went on a motorcycle? And did you tuck your head like below the windshield thing?
I think I might have hit like 120 like once on a bike, which I was terrified and I have no need to ever do again. I did it real quick.
Same.
I don't go fast on motorcycles. I don't like it. It scares me. But yeah, that's kind of what it was like. Yeah, I mean, it is, but actually, in the Elva, it was even more. Because if I'm going that fast on a motorcycle, I'm wearing a full-face helmet.
That's true.
I would never go that fast without a full-face helmet on a motorcycle. I'd never get on a motorcycle without a full-face helmet. So this was, like, even crazier. It's like flying an airplane and just, like, opening the door.
Were your eyes just scanning the air, looking? I mean, not that you could stop it, but, like, hoping there's no bees or anything you crash into?
I definitely got hit in the face with a couple of things. Yeah. Don't know what they were. Try not to think about it.
Per hour.
Definitely got to keep your mouth closed. And I wore, some pretty tight wrap-aroundy glasses so that my eyes wouldn't just be tearing like crazy. Because like if I wear like a Wayfarer style glass, because I put sunglasses inside my motorcycle helmet, usually. I know you're supposed to have a tinted visor and not do that, but I ride with my visor open at low speeds and closes, whatever, fine. But when I wear the Wayfarer style, the air goes around it, like mad dust and shit gets in my eyes.
Yeah.
So you got to wear the wraparoundy. Then I look like super MAGA with those on, but so I try not to do it. But
just operator.
Sometimes you have to.
Look, aerodynamics is aerodynamics, okay? Like, it doesn't have a brand allegiance. It's just physics is physics.
It does, but MAGA has co-opted aerodynamics sunglasses.
Well, I think, there's no disrespect. Like, I think police officers became first they had the aviator.
Are you saying there's a link?
I think they became known for it, but I used to wear those glasses. It's because you have the best peripheral vision that is also shaded. You know, they fit close to your head.
Right.
Makes sense.
That's true. MAGA fashion is 2005.
Right.
Pretty much.
I think they went, ooh, you know what I want to look like? A cop, but I'm not one.
Right.
So.
Right. But we went spidering this morning. It was a delight. That car's...
It's really good, dude.
The car's really quite good. We need new tires. We are at the end of the Dunlop SP Sport Max. It's given us 5,200 miles of fun. And that's about the end of those tires. They are donezo. I'm going to have those replaced while I'm out of town next week. Probably the PS4S, I think.
I think that's the way.
I don't think we've gotten anything extra for the R compound for canyon driving other than very, very, very sensitive to temperature changes in terms of the pressure. Never had any car that has needed tire pressure adjustments as much as these tires.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Super sensitive to tire pressures.
They're pretty loud.
I mean,
they're kind of loud, aren't they?
Most R compound tires are on the louder side.
There's just more things contacting the ground. Yeah.
And in an R compound tire, like, anytime you're talking about performance of a car or a tire it's a give and take, right? So the more you care about your tires being sticky, presumably the less you care about other things, such as noise and longevity.
True.
And so a car, like a Prius tire will last 50,000 miles and it'll be very quiet. And then a racing tire, like the tires I was saying on the way back, the tires on my NSX, which I looked downstairs, it's the RE71Rs, those are really loud.
Oh.
But there are very few tires that will fit both the front and the back. So I have to either run a mismatched set or I'm limited to like 2 options. So I can't get Michelin's on that car. So we'll probably get the PS4S, which is good.
I think that's good.
There is no PSS5 fitment for 718 Spider yet.
But that's with the PS4S is so
It makes no difference at all. Yeah. And I have yet to drive the same car with both. So I don't know if you could feel the difference.
Oh, that would be a fun experiment.
It would be a fun experiment. 6 people would watch the video.
Oh,
like,
it wouldn't be a
thank
video.
God you did this. No. I've been waiting for this.
Look, and only 8 people would want to hear our conversation about it or understand it. But yeah, I'm sure there's a difference, but it's small.
It was your first time trying the Spider with the tune.
Yeah.
You seem to enjoy. Folks, got to take a quick break because Get Maine Lobster is in the building. They sent me a box of lobster tails, and oh my God, bro. I love a lobster. I like to do it on the grill with a lot of butter. It's not exactly healthy, but it is delightful. And I'm all about quality, whether it's cars, watches, food, and boy, does Get Maine Lobster deliver. They're ranked the #1 lobster delivery company by Good Housekeeping with over 16,000 5-star ratings. It's clear they're doing something right. I know they're doing something right because they sent me delightful lobster tails, wild caught off the coast of Maine and flash frozen for peak freshness. Absolutely delicious. Like I said, on the grill with some butter, little garlic. I am in that game. I think next week I'm going to make some lobster fried rice. That's going to be delightful. For you folks out there, because you're part of the Smoking Tire family, you can get 15% off your order of Get Maine Lobster. Just use code TIRE, T-I-R-E, at checkout. Seriously, folks, this is some fire lobster. It's the best you'll ever eat. It's so good. Head over to getmainelobster.com. That's GETMAINE lobster.com. It's funny, they've got the letter E and really big in the copy because apparently people don't know how to spell the state of Maine. GetMainelobster.com and use the code TIRE Get yourself 15% off all orders store-wide. Top-tier stuff. GetMaineLobster.com. Promo code TIRE. 15% off everything store-wide. Yeah, buddy, those lobster tails are good. And what about Delete Me? This is an important one because someone you know, maybe you, maybe your mother, maybe your father, maybe your sister, your brother, they have been either a victim of identity theft, harassed, stalked, doxxed, etc. Maybe it's as simple as like getting lots of robocalls. I don't know what's happened to me in the last few weeks, but my robocalls seem through the roof. And it's because my personal data is out there for data brokers to buy, right? My convenience, I'm ordering stuff online, I'm shopping, whatever, I got to type in my phone number, and then the robots end up calling me. It's super annoying. It's being compiled by data brokers and sold online. They make a huge profit off your data because it's a commodity, right? And then you can stop this, though. Now you can stop it, protecting your privacy with Delete Me. All you have to do is sign up and provide Delete Me with exactly the information that you want deleted, and their experts will take it from there. Delete Me will then send you regular personalized privacy reports showing what info they found, where they found it, and what they removed, right? It's not just a one-time service. Delete Me is always working for you, constantly monitoring and removing the personal information you don't want on the internet. To put it simply, Delete Me does all the hard work of wiping you and your family's personal information from data broker websites. So take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me now at a special discount for our listeners. You can get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/tire and use promo code TIRE. That's the only way to get 20% off. The website is joindeleteme.com. The word join is part of it. joindeleteme.com/tire and then enter code TIRE at checkout. 20% off. joindeleteme.com/tire. Code TIRE. Let's get back to the program.
One, great car. Two, noticeable. And I recall that when we drove that car in the damp when you first got the engine put in, it broke up a little bit when I drove it. It was accelerating. I didn't want to say anything because I was like, well, maybe that's just the nature of this, and I don't want to, shit on, the new toy. But it was just doing there was like 1,000 RPM range where it kind of like, and then go. And now it's gone. Now it's fucking butter smooth from like idle to red line. And it's just so nice. And I guess it's faster. It was fast before. But
it's still fast, yeah.
It's very fast.
There's this very, very slight hesitation under 2,000 RPM at very, 2% throttle, which, when someone's dyno tuning, I'm certain they're not tuning for that. So I may have to call Mitch and just have him, look at the file and see if, it's fine at, any amount of actual throttle and any amount of revs above 2. But just between 1 and 2, real low, real light throttle, puttering along kind of thing. Maybe it just means I need to be a gear lower.
Is there a hiccup?
It's a little, not like a hiccup, but just a tiny hesitation, which was there originally with cylinder deactivation, but he turned that off. So I don't know. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's going to be one of those things like that fucking story I tell about Ralph Lauren where they fly over from England and they fucking check out his McLaren F1 and they go shift higher.
Just shift higher.
Yeah. So maybe it's just listen, fucking.
Just rev it up before you shift.
Racing engine, keep it over 2.
Yeah.
All right, fine.
Okay. It may not like to cruise at 16, 12.
It may not. Mm-hmm. It may not, but okay, fine, I'll do that. But yeah, that car's awesome, and those tires are done. A lot of people wrote in about last episode talking about the emissions drive cycles. Everyone had an opinion on the emissions drive cycles, and all of them meant well. Nobody was shitty. I think one thing that maybe I didn't make clear on the last show was that it's almost impossible to do. We always look up the factory emissions drive cycle and it'll be cold start, turn the car on, cold, ice cold. After 2 minutes, set the air conditioning to 72. Then drive for 3 minutes at 40 miles an hour. Then come to a stop. Then accelerate to 70 miles an hour and drive for 6 minutes. Then come to a stop. I'm making this up, but this is what they are. Then turn the headlights on and off. Then,
and is that each manufacturer has a different procedure?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
And I had to do, I once did it for this guy's Corvette. You know that C7 Corvette we've got down there with the ZR1?
Yeah.
I once did it for that. And I looked at the procedure and I went, I don't know where I'm going to do this.
Like, I'm not a pilot. What is this checklist?
It was crazy. It was like 12 steps long. And you had to start from ice cold and you had to do all this shit that it was literally impossible to do in the city of LA unless I went out at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I went out and I took Hannah with me because I couldn't drive and read the procedure and time the things at the same time. So I go, Hannah, here's a clipboard. You need to read the procedure and then time each thing and tell me what to do. And so we did it. It was hard and it was so dangerous because I had to go on the 405 and go 45 miles an hour for 3 minutes, come to a stop like in the shoulder. Okay, now accelerate to 55 for 5 minutes, come to a stop. Now accelerate to 35 for 1 minute, 45 for 1 minute, 55 for 1 minute, come to a stop.
And the manual says this is what you do.
This is what you do to reset the emissions computers.
Ugh.
Yes,
Wow.
to pass smog.
Wow.
And so if you're in some like rural country road somewhere, like, all right, this is possible. In LA, this is, it's maybe it's technically possible, but it's extremely dangerous. Like shady. Like if a cop saw me doing this, he'd pull me over for
Like, what are you
DUI.
doing? Right.
Like,
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing?
Are you lost here on the highway? Yeah.
You know, like so in every car it's a little different, but if you look up any of the procedures, they're all fucking insane. None of them can be done in the city of Los Angeles effectively.
Can they be done on jack stands?
No.
Okay.
The engine has to be under load.
Oh.
Yeah, no Ferris Buellering. So, and then a couple of them require multiple cold starts. So you can't just do it once. So some of that is why I did like a 100-mile drive and it still failed, and I had to do another cold start, another 100-mile drive, and it passed. All the cars I did where I did 100 miles and then let the car sit for a day, then another 100 miles, they all passed.
Okay. So you were accidentally doing multiple cold starts.
Right.
Wow.
And I also did a bunch of highway speed driving because I went out at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then a bunch of lower speed driving because I would go out and then I'd take PCH back, and at PCH I can hold 45 for a little while and then I can hold 55 for a little while. But on the highway I'm holding 70 for a little while, you know, and I come to a couple of lights and whatever. Like it naturally hits all those points it needs to hit during those two drives. And so like the one bit of advice that people had was to put an OBD scanner on it before I go to smog the first time, because it'll tell you emissions readiness or not. And what I've learned since is sometimes it will. It will on some cars. It won't on every car.
Wow.
We did it on a 997 Porsche. Didn't work.
And it just doesn't present that data.
Does not present the data.
Huh.
I just today did it on a Ferrari 575. Does not present the data. But on the Porsche 993, it did present the data. 96.
Weird.
So some cars it will, some cars it won't. On the Jaguar it will too. So but there's no like universal thing. But like so far, doing 100 miles, letting the car sit for a day, and doing another 100 miles, I'm 3 for 3 passing the cars doing that.
Okay. So that like, may be the universal procedure.
I mean, it's annoying. It takes a lot of time. I don't want to fucking do it.
Well,
but
look, Isaac Newton, he had his theories and he proved them. You are him, but for smog emissions.
And people, you know, I had a couple of people who worked as smog check people. I had a couple of people that were like, you know, everyone was trying to be helpful. Nobody was being shitty about this. But like most people either didn't really understand that it's not possible or realistic to do the actual reset procedure in LA. And so, and just going out over and over and over sucks. But like the 100 miles, and then overnight, and then another cold start. That seems to do it.
Okay.
Which sucks.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
That's a lot of. It's a lot. Quite an activity.
In the last week, I had breakfast at Vintage fucking Grocers 3 times, and Vintage Grocers is 55 miles from here, and I'm going there for breakfast in these random cars, just like, oh, fine. There's worse things to be doing with your time than driving a somewhat cool car to breakfast far away. It's not the end of the world, but like, it's kind of frustrating.
Yeah, and it's an add-on for your job. So
it's another thing. Yeah.
What was I going to say about that?
But yeah, so the OBD2 scanner works on some cars, but not all of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder why they changed that. I wonder why they start, like, if 993 presented the data, but then 997 doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know why they changed that, and I don't know why a Jaguar works and a Ferrari doesn't, and maybe a Chevy works, and maybe a BMW does, and maybe a this and maybe that. It doesn't seem to be like before this year or after this year. It doesn't seem to be consistent with which ones work and which ones don't.
It would be really fun to ask a former smog tech, like, what is some of your more entertaining stories? Like, people have brought in, you know, weird engine swaps, or they've tried to bribe you, or they've, like, you look under there and there's 3 mufflers because they think that does anything. Like, I bet they've had some weird stories.
I bet there are too. And the smog technician does have some control, because when I went in there with one of the 3 cars, and I certainly will not say which one, I said I did 100 miles, and here was the report. It said, computer's not ready. I said, I just did 110 more. And he goes, oh man, this car's got really low miles, and you just had to do all this. He goes, and I go, is it good? And he goes, it's gonna be good. And he didn't. It's not like he pulled it off and put in his own car or anything shady like that. Mm-hmm. But I said, are we good? And he goes, it's gonna be good. And so I do think that there is some, like many bureaucratic systems, boils down to one guy, some ability to, if the computer says, this computer hasn't reset, but the actual emissions test is a pass, I think they might be able to push it through. Mm-hmm. I think there's a very small amount of discretion and or wiggle room.
Or maybe they can clear something if 9 out of 10 things are showing clean enough, and the other one just hasn't set yet. Yeah, they're like, it's headed in the right direction. I don't know.
yeah, but either way, that shit is So it's obviously emissions testing is a good thing, right, in general, but it's for cars that don't get driven, it can really be a pain in the ass.
Yeah, God, I wonder. Jay Leno must just have one person who spends every day driving a car. Well, actually, half of his
most
cars
of Jay's cars are pre-smog.
Yeah,
so
most of them are pre-horse. So
yeah, pre-gasoline.
Yeah, some of them kind of are. Yeah. They ran on whatever the pharmacy sold.
Yeah, he's got that thing that's called an Owen magnetic. Have you ever heard of that? It's like the Chevy Volt, but like 90 years before the Chevy Volt. So it has a gasoline engine. It's from 1916, almost exactly 90 years. So it's got a gasoline engine, and then it's got this sort of thing that is like a gearbox, but not a gearbox. And it has an electric motor in the back. And the gas engine is just a generator that outputs electricity. Oh. There is no mechanical connection to the wheels.
Smart.
And it's this perfectly smooth power.
Wow.
Yeah, it's literally like a gas-driven generator that and this is from 1916. The thing would do 60 miles an hour. And I think there's like 4 or 5 quote gears, like different output speeds to make it go different speeds. And I think in the top one, it would lock the engine to the rear differential. Oh. So at the top one, there is a 1-to-1 gas-driven drive. But anything below that, it would spin a generator, which would then power this electric motor.
So at high speed, it wasn't efficient enough. It couldn't output enough power from the generator.
I think that's right.
To the battery, charge it, and then output it to the electric motor. So
I think that's right.
Let's just connect it.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So then that's 90 years. Isn't that crazy?
Well, if they were making electric cars then for 20 years roughly at that point, and they had generators, and someone just went, what if we make a tiny one of these and you have your power plant?
Yeah.
I guess gas must have been just common enough that you could, do that. Like the early electric cars, you had to charge at home.
Yeah.
And then drive around and then probably go back and charge at home. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's speculation. Someone correct me if I'm wrong.
No, they were like, there was no public charging. There was very much like local driving.
Yeah, you just walk into like your local shop with 2 wires. Like, can you shove this into the wall?
No, they had plugs.
I'm sure.
It was a plug.
Yeah.
It was just a slow charging process.
Yeah.
But they could go like 30 miles, 40 miles. So for the woman of the house going to the grocery store,
like a leaf.
They were pitched for women because they weren't dirty or smelly,
Right.
and they didn't require a big crank start. You just turn them on,
Which could actually break your arm, man or woman.
It's a ladies' car.
Yeah.
There was a fucking, oh man, there was a comedian that did a really good bit about the end of white people talking like that, it was actually Shane Gillis.
Oh really?
Yeah, it's
the
a
end
very
of the
good Shane Gillis
accent?
of where white people immediately stop talking like that. Go find it on YouTube. It's very, very good. Folks, winning season is here. It's time to get back to football, and MyBookie is here to help. They are going to make every game so exciting. You're going to be sweating buckets because you're not just watching the game and eating wings over here. You got some skin in the game. You know what I'm saying? It's MyBookie. It allows you to bet on all kinds of football-related things from the comfort of your own couch with a bucket of wings in your other hand. You feel me? And this season, MyBookie is pulling out all the stops with risk-free boosts on Thursdays. You know what that means? It means you bet. And if you win, you win. But if you lose, you don't really lose. That's right. If you lose one of those bets, MyBookie will refund your wager. Where else have you heard of risk-free betting before? It doesn't exist except for on those weekly risk-free boosts on Thursdays. But that's just the beginning. MyBookie is giving away hundreds of thousands in prizes with their Super, Survivor, and Squares contests. Get your entries in now for your shot at a huge cash reward. When you're ready to get started, just use my promo code TIRE, T-I-R-E, to claim a bonus that doubles your money on your very first deposit. You heard that right, folks. Double your money with promo code TIRE before you even place a bet. And now, loyalty pays off because MyBookie Plus is in the house. The more you play, the more you win. It's simple. Climb through the tiers of the loyalty rewards program, just like I do with Delta Airlines, and unlock even more epic promotions, exclusive giveaways, and bigger rewards. MyBookie Plus is the lock of the century. Bet on anything, anywhere, anytime, and make your season a winning season. And thank you to MyBookie for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. Now, back to the show. Fucking Shane is hilarious.
He's got a lot of voices. He's
really, really good. So anyway, yeah, that's the pre. But I talk about this with electric cars all the time, like getting to a high-speed charger on a road trip now. It must have been kind of like finding gas back in the day. Mm-hmm. Like you'd get it from pharmacies or like wherever you just get gas from. There weren't like as many except now we have like GPS. Back then it was like you kind of had to take a guess at it.
Well, I think back then everything was running like ethanol or just it was whatever alcohol,
kerosene or whatever the fuck.
Yeah,
they run.
So if you went into the local shop to get kerosene for your lamps for your house, and then you'd also go into the same shop to get fuel.
Right.
I was talking to
how we bought gas in Thailand.
Yes, which for people who don't know, we went to like a bodega and they had 2 different bottles outside. One was like clear and one was green, and there were different octanes. And you pay for that. Was it
leaded or unleaded, or was it diesel and gasoline? I don't remember. If it might have been diesel and gasoline.
Might have been that.
Yeah.
But
they were in liquor bottles. You'd buy a liter, a 1 liter liquor
glass bottle, and you go out and pour it in your scooter, and then you go on your way. It was pretty wild.
Fucking crazy,
yeah.
Dude.
It was also the Molotov Cocktail Emporium, if you wanted to be.
Straight up. Yeah. Very fine line there.
David Tuig, we saw him, author of Inside the Machine, great book, and he came to Good Vibes with us, and he was showing me pictures of his dad's 1917 Model T. Uh-huh. And I know you've driven 2 of these things, so I wonder if were the pedals always the same across the different ones you drove?
The only one that was different was the Racing T, which had an actual gas pedal instead of the hand throttle.
Yeah, he was explaining
which is a world of difference.
The controls made... I mean, look, everything's evolution, but that was the platypus, or I mean, it was weird.
Well, there's no standardization, before 1930 or so. So everything was weird and different.
It was just like weird levers that actuate, leather straps, and it was just so funny.
Model Ts make sense when there's no other cars around.
Right.
Like when I drove the off-road T on like that dirt road out by Apple Valley, like the Super T, that absolutely made sense because the hand throttle is basically like cruise control. And you can see shit from so far away that you almost never have to use the brakes. You just slow down using the throttle and then put it into neutral.
But he was saying like you pull the right handle, you pull back and it's the e-brake, but you push forward and it's reverse. Or vice versa.
That's a little different.
There was a hand control that literally in one direction held the car in place. The other direction sent it in reverse.
Yeah.
But then first gear was the left pedal.
The pedal, yeah.
So
the pedal, when you press that pedal in, it's for low gear. And then there's a middle position, which is neutral, where you literally have to like hover your foot, and then all the way out is high gear.
But if you want first gear for any amount of time, you're holding your foot in.
Yes.
Right.
First gear is from like 0 to 3 miles an hour. Yeah, you don't use first gear very much.
Got it.
And for the Super T, he made that into a lever. So there's a way to modify that pedal to be a lever.
Right.
Yeah. But then there was another pedal for your multi-speed transfer case. Like it's crazy the amount of shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you're out on like the range, and you're going 20, 30 miles on a dirt road.
True.
All you have to do is steer. Your
Right.
feet don't do shit. Your hands don't. You just steer.
Yeah, that's a good point.
At that, it's actually quite good and makes a lot of sense at that. More sense than holding an accelerator pedal. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess there were no stoplights back then.
Nothing.
I mean, there were some stop signs maybe, but you just kind of start going and hopefully keep going.
Yeah, and it was so like bumpy that if you had a pedal, you'd be going,
That's true.
whereas
That's a
like
good point.
with the hand throttle, you just like like you're on a horse or some shit.
This kind of explains why there were stories of pedestrians getting hit in town, though, because if you you got to pull down the throttle. I mean, you probably can't stop the thing that quick, or you hit the wrong pedal. Now you're in second, or you're back in neutral.
1910 to 1925 was a fucking cars were just murder machines.
Yeah.
Like they were going so fast in towns, and we hadn't done real traffic lights and stuff yet, and the cars got so fast and took over the streets. Like the difference in speed from a car in 1910 to one in 1925 is enormous.
Yes.
And they were just like 40 down fucking Broadway,
passing horses or other cars. It was
so
lawless.
many people were getting hit. It was crazy. Yeah, I read that book about the development of rules of the road, and there was some crazy shit going down in about 1920 to 1925. It got real dirty, in particularly Manhattan. Yeah, it was fucked up. The embargo's off the Volvo EX90 that we drove.
Oh,
should we talk about that?
Yeah, we should.
Volvo's it's sort of like the electric version of the XC90, right? It's a 3-row, full-size SUV. Pretty good-looking vehicle. I like the design of it. I mean, it's very I don't know, familial. Is that the word that we use? It looks like a Volvo SUV should look, right?
It does.
And it's got some aerodynamic elements like the nose that indicates it's electric, and the folding in door handles that are flush, and the aero sort of blades on the wheels. But at first glance, handsome.
Definitely.
Right? It's got a bunch of power. We drove the faster one of the two, the performance one, which is dual motor, 500 horsepower. Dual motor, 500 horsepower.
Yep.
Where's my little notes on this fucking guy? Because it was a couple weeks ago when we drove this thing, wasn't it? Was it it was after Pebble, right?
Yes.
There it is, EX90.
2 weeks ago.
Volvo says it's their safest design ever, which we'll get to what that is. It's 510 horsepower. It's got a 111 kilowatt-hour battery and a 308-mile range. Base price around $80K. The one we drove was $90 because it was fully loaded. And most of the time when you're driving it, it's front-wheel drive. So the rear motor will decouple for efficiency, and then if you put it into all-wheel drive sport mode or something, then it full-time all-wheel drives it.
Yeah.
It's got air suspension. It's very, very quiet. And it's got a Bowers & Wilkins Dolby Atmos stereo.
Which sounds very good.
It does sound good.
Which we'll also get to. It sounded good, we should say. And it also is mostly regen braking, unless you brake really, really hard, and then it gets into the caliper. Like, they try to use as much regen as possible. And what else did I written down? Drag coefficient is 0.29, which is pretty good.
For a full-size SUV, that's pretty good.
It is, but it's behind the Rivian R1S, and it's behind the Tesla Model X. The Rivian is 0.28, Tesla Model X is 0.24, and the iX is 0.25. So it is actually in fourth place among those.
Wow.
Slippery, but, you know.
I think anything under 0.3 is still pretty good.
I agree. I think if you do a lot of highway driving, you'd benefit. I mean, from 0.25 to 0.29, you'd probably get a lot more range from the same energy. But around town, it doesn't matter as much.
A Model X, that's 20% better. 0.24 to 0.30
Yep.
or 0.29, it's almost 20% better.
Yeah.
That's a big difference.
And our car, well, actually all of them I think are on the 2-chamber air suspension, which is pretty prevalent these days and pretty good.
Yeah, ultimately, it's a car, right? It's not really...
Tagline, Volvo EX90. It's a car.
If we were in Crazy People, it's a car. It's not really set up for the enthusiast. It's set up for a family.
Right.
It is very comfortable. It's very spacious. I love Volvo's seats. The seats are fantastic.
Oh, some of the best.
The wool, the best. The wool is amazing in the Volvo.
And I'd say the new interior, because I drove the XC90, whatever, I was on the launch like 7 years ago. I've always liked the seats. I've always liked the Alcantara they did and the open wood. But I thought that the old dash screen was just, I didn't like the way it looked. And that roller dial below it felt super cheap. It was like really light plastic. So I think that the things they've improved and changed look way better and function really well.
Yeah. The interface in general. Are you about to sneeze?
I am.
Woo, boy. Get it out, buddy.
I'm trying.
The interface is good. It's smooth. It works. It's fast. But I think Volvo really wanted us to know that this was a pre-production car we drove. Having said that, it had some behaviors that I found to be pretty unacceptable.
It did, and those behaviors, most of them stemmed from that category of, quote, safest car they've ever made. Right?
Yes.
It was all systems that were meant to make the car safer.
Yeah, like it probably is very safe in a crash. Like I trust Volvo 100% to make a car that is safe in a crash.
Sure.
But this is possibly the most nanny state car I've ever driven.
Well, it has an exterior LiDAR system, which we'll speak about. It has all the ADAS
Which you can
things.
see. Can you kind of see on the photo? That photo, it's at the top of the windshield, but that photo hides it.
They did a good job of molding it in pretty well.
It does have a bit of a wart. That photo from above shows it good. Yeah.
It also has this interior radar system, which they, in the press release, is like if you leave your kid in the back seat and you lock the car and then the car detects motion, it will tell you, like, hey, you forgot your child or your pet.
And it will also upload the video to Instagram and shame you as a mother.
It will do that too. Yeah. It's called the Karen, but it's spelled with a little umlaut over the A. So it has that, but I think we had a larger problem with the ADAS systems and the stuff that is trying to keep you safe on the outside.
Yeah, it was. So the LiDAR right now, it's got LiDAR hardware, but it's not doing anything that helps you.
Yes.
It's gathering data, which I'm sure is true, but also like gather your own goddamn data. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like the idea. I don't like it with Tesla, and also the way that Tesla describes what they're doing with that data is kind of bullshit. But, like, I don't like the idea of them selling this car to people and they're going to use their driving data to gather mapping data. I understand why they do that. It's probably cheaper than having your own fleet of mapping vehicles.
For sure.
But GM and Ford both had LiDAR mapping specific either services or vehicles go out and drive highways and make those maps. And now they have Blue Cruise and Super Cruise, which are true hands-free systems in limited roadways.
Yes.
Right? So this has a full ADAS suite, which includes steering assist, lane change assist, and it's not limited where you can turn it on. You can turn it on anywhere, like Tesla. But you really, to use any of it, have to have both your hands on the wheel, which defeats the purpose of any of it.
Yes.
Particularly the lane change thing. They made a pretty big deal about lane change, automatic lane change. Except to use it, you literally have to have both your hands on the wheel. With Blue Cruise and Super Cruise, it's a hands-free system. So you tap the blinker, and then your hands go back to the armrest, and then the car makes the lane change when it can. This one has real conservative settings in terms of will it allow you to make the lane change or will it not. We found there were a lot of places where it would not.
Yes.
And then also, you have to have both your hands on the wheel.
Yeah, the sensors that detect your hands were better than the Lucid. If you watch that video, we had a lot of problems with that. And we kind of figured out, oh, your hands have to be in a very certain place. And Volvo said that your hands could be in most places on the wheel here, but the way, if you drive with your hand like resting on the steering wheel stock, which is a natural thing to do. You put your arm up on like the windowsill, you drape your hand there, you're cruising straight, it thinks your hand is off the wheel.
Yeah.
And it will alert you about that. And regarding the lane change problem, so we drove on a toll road from the hotel to on the drive route. Pretty empty highway.
Three lanes.
Great
paint,
least.
Lots of visibility.
Lots of visibility. You could easily see the lane markings. And there were a number of times where the car would not let us change the lane. And we tested this multiple times on the same road with no traffic around. Sometimes it would do it. Sometimes it wouldn't do it. I don't know. They commented later maybe it was because our hands were not perfectly on the wheel. But when I tested it on the drive back, I had my hands at like 9 and 3 the whole time. And I don't know how much room it needs to make a lane change, but it's far more than a human would do, but not even a bold human. Like the blind spot indicator sensor, the little light, could be off, but it still wouldn't change lanes there.
Yeah.
So that was like, it all goes back to a problem we have with these systems, whereas if you have to pay more attention to the robot than it would take to just do the move, then it is it's pointless.
Which defeats the purpose of any of this shit if your hands have to be on the wheel.
Yeah.
If your hands have to be on the wheel, the easiest thing to do is drive the goddamn car. This is not a hard activity. Does it require some attention? Sure. But if your hands are on the wheel, you're driving anyway. Like, so not only did it not change lanes when asked sometimes, even though circumstances were as ideal as they could be, and our hands were on the wheel. Another time, it did change lanes, but it didn't stop after a lane. It kept going to do a double lane change.
Right. It was passive aggressive. It's like, fine, you want to change lanes? You want me to change lanes?
I'm going to change all
the lanes. I'm going to smoke the whole carton.
Yeah. So that was a big problem. And then, it allowed you to use radar cruise control with ADAS on some like windy roads, but it could not navigate the corners properly, which is why they should not enable this shit on windy roads. It never worked in any Tesla I tried either, and they should just not allow you to.
Yeah, I mean, I let it do its thing, and the wheel definitely touched the center line, which had one of those vibrating strips. I had full visibility. I just wanted to see, could it read this marker?
Yeah.
And it was bright yellow paint on dark tarmac, and it definitely went to that place, and I didn't feel comfortable letting it decide from there. And then also, when we turned off lane keep assist, it wasn't really off. It would still warn or give an input into the wheel when we would get close to those lines.
But it would say off on the screen. There was a thing that said lane keep assist off. But if you actually got close to a striped line, it would change color and intervene. So you cannot turn that system off. So like there's safe, and then there's like nanny state shit. And like that's really like kind of too far. Like I get that this feature is here. I get that this feature could help somebody. But if you turn it off proactively, it needs to be off.
Yeah, I don't know if that's... I mean, because there's some of these things where they can probably be fixed with software in the future, right? If they have all this hardware in there, hopefully they can just program these things to be less restrictive on lane change and blah, 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 blah. But that one, I wonder, like, is that a situation where they don't want you to be able to turn it off because they think it's technically safer? But I don't know. There's places where you want to know what the car is going to do, I think.
Yeah.
And if it's intervening too much where pushing you away from a poorly marked road or the car's confused. I want to be able to turn that system off and just go, I will handle it, and have it let me do that.
We're entering such like a dangerous sort of chasm here where all this tech is covering up for being really bad at driving. Like, if you can't keep a car in a lane, what are you doing driving a car? Like, this is like the most basic thing. Keep the car in between these two stripes. Like, if you cannot do that, you should not have a license.
I think we are witnessing the pubescent stage of autonomous cars. And if you're born 20 years from now, you'll hear about this the way we look back at the Model T with the pedals that are mounted to the roof or whatever the fuck, and you go, wow, I can't believe they used to do things this way. Like, but they had to figure it out. But I think that's what's happening.
I guess, but if that's the
Doesn't
case,
excuse it.
If that's the case, it's much more important to be able to deactivate this system, especially if it's going to not be good. And we're now in a place where so many manufacturers are comfortable releasing garbage and then going, well, and because we brought this up, we did our drive, we brought the car back, and they're like, well, thank God for over-the-air updates. We can update it. It's like, or you could have done this right the first time before you had all this media here driving this car. And this has happened sort of with the Hyundai Ioniq 5N, and it's menus within menus within menus. Like, it's impossible that nobody at Hyundai was like, this is too complicated. Or fucking Tesla's fake self-driving trash, or any of this, or Ford's a Sirius XM gray out thing that happened to me like right away from taking the car. Like they could have they're getting a little too comfortable fixing it in post.
Right.
You know, well, so it's an OTA update. Like, they were doing this with cell phones and computer programs for so long that, like, but cars are different. Like, this needs to work properly before you sell it.
Well, I hope that, because we drove a pre-pro car, I hope that these things are much improved by the time they go to sale.
I hope so too.
But I think you're totally right. The global populace has gotten very comfortable with things being updated as needed or when bugs appear, and now we're doing it with hardware. And I know that they're updating the software, but like the car is a piece of hardware. It's not an application. It's not a website. It's something you interact with that moves through the universe.
And as we learned from Koopman, like, the software is not regulated. Like, it doesn't need to pass any sort of legal scrutiny before being put on the road, and it controls the entire car.
I think the Ford and Chevy model is the best right now because they can map the roads that people are most likely to turn cruise control on, whatever you want to call it. And then I don't know if those cars are gathering data while they go down those roads when they're owned by private people.
No, I don't think they are.
You don't think they are?
No. Okay. I think they have specific data gathering teams that are LiDAR mapping those roads, and then they download the LiDAR maps into the customer cars.
Right. No, I think they do that. I wonder if, true question, if someone from Ford or Chevy's listening, like, please respond. I wonder if once you have that map in your Silverado or whatever, and you go to work every day, you're using Blue Cruise or whatever on the roads that were mapped, is there data being collected from how your car is interacting and then being sent back to them for R&D? I don't
think so. Because your car is not – I don't think the car is capable of transmitting that much data back. I mean, that's what they found with Tesla.
True.
Tesla was doing –
right.
Tesla was talking, your car is mapping the fucking world. Fucking horse shit, dude. The car would send little bits of data if you hit that one – incident button if FSD fucked up. But your car is not the amount of data that it would have to collect. It would just be constantly up. Imagine the bandwidth.
Well, I think with Tesla, it was assumed that it was uploading from the cameras. Yeah. And everyone's like, that's impossible.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was video data, totally impossible.
Totally
I don't know
impossible.
if there's a different type of data packet or whatever that would be used for this stuff where it just goes, where if it just tells the mothership, I was going 60 and I tried to lane change and then the person interacted and
it could definitely
here's what
send,
the sensors were saying. I don't know.
Yeah, it could send some little ECU data packet from sensors, but not video. And
right, I agree.
What Tesla was trying to say was our cars are mapping the world, which they are most certainly were not. Very easy to debunk that. But with Ford and GM, they had mapping teams making those maps for their cars, and then they could make little adjustments later.
Cartography.
Very good. But okay, so there was some problems with EX90.
Mm-hmm.
The good things was like the hard points of the car, like the interior, the actual driving of it. It was pretty fast for what it was.
It was what you would expect.
Yeah,
perfectly acceptably fast,
very
acceptably
quiet.
Braking, very quiet.
Yeah.
Handling was good.
Handling was fine.
Steering was numb, but who cares?
Steering felt like nothing.
Yeah.
There's a little weird thing that happens if you're in normal mode, which is front drive mode, and you floor it.
Mm-hmm.
It does not instantly connect the rear motor and activate it. There's a delay. It almost feels like the kind of delay if a gas engine had to downshift and then get into a turbo boost.
It feels like a power band.
Yeah.
It feels like an ICE power band. So, I forgot to ask them that. I was curious if that was something that they built into it on purpose because their clientele doesn't care about immediate 0 to 60 time and having that whack in the back of the head. Do they just want to go,
No,
it
it's
just feels
literally
quick.
the rear motor like waking up and engaging.
I feel like that could happen so quickly.
I thought it
because I
could
remember
too,
we
but-
drove it and it felt like seconds.
Yeah.
Where it would kind of go woo and
Yeah.
it was building the power instead of the other cars we've driven where it's like here's 100% of it basically.
I
right away.
think with other dual motor cars, the other motor, like the Lucid, right? It's in eco mode. It's called I think smooth. It's mostly front wheel drive also, but I don't think the rear motor is like off. I think in this Volvo the rear motor is off.
It's asleep.
for efficiency. Yeah, I think it's more efficient that way. Whereas the Lucid, it does want that instant power, so it's like turned down but not turned off.
I don't know,
think.
or maybe it's a clutch system that it's
Yeah.
decoupled, but it's still on. I mean, I don't know. So the Lucid their motors are some of the quickest and most sophisticated out there.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if it has different hardware.
This may have some kind of clutch pack system
maybe.
also.
I think they build this motor. Volvo was proud of that. There was a lot of tech in this thing.
Built in South Carolina, right? South Carolina? South Carolina.
so.
Built in Charleston. Yes, Charleston. I have the XC60 hybrid downstairs.
Oh, wait, real
Hannah
quick.
and I are doing
I
a
accidentally
road
said
trip.
that the Dale Earnhardt car was built in Charleston, North Carolina, instead of Charlotte, which is the home of NASCAR.
What Dale Earnhardt car?
The thing I did for Cars and Bits. So if anybody's listening, I realized I did that. I hadn't slept much, and I'd filmed 7 cars in a weekend, so I know.
Charleston, yeah,
Continue.
it's probably Charlotte.
It's Charlotte,
I'm
North
guessing
Carolina, is the home of everything. Sorry,
Probably
continue.
Mooresville, actually.
Mooresville?
It's where most NASCAR shit is, yeah. That's where Bosie lives.
Oh, I thought it was Charlotte.
I mean, it's a suburb of Charlotte.
Well, God damn it.
Yeah.
Don't throw me that curveball.
Sorry. That's, so yeah, I mean, I've got the XC60 hybrid downstairs, which is my favorite Volvo right now, that Hannah and I are taking on a 1,200 mile road trip
Oh,
next
nice.
week
Yeah.
to Arizona, light lifting, really, to scout the road and track event. I really like that car.
Yeah, you do.
That is a nice car. 40 miles hybrid range, gas engine to follow it up.
So last
Great
year,
seats.
you drove that car, and you were like, ooh, we could get this as a daily, but
This
it's
is
kind of
nice.
expensive.
It
But
is.
then you put down money, which you've retracted, I think, on the Macan EV, which
Yeah,
was more
I
expensive.
didn't put down money. It did not. It was
Well,
not
you're-
money, but
you're
I-
interested.
Yeah.
Which was more expensive. So does that make
yes.
this car look like a deal because it's cheaper?
Well, in some ways, yes, but as it turns out, the audience isn't particularly interested in either. So
Oh, right. From a content perspective,
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
I was just trying to get you to
the
spend
Macan,
money.
the Macan EV would make more sense if every other electric car wasn't so deeply discounted right now.
Yeah.
If all other electric cars were the same price they were 2 years ago, the Macan makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's expensive, but it makes more sense. But when a Mach-E is a lease number that starts with a 4,
Right, true.
that's a lot. And now I don't know. Maybe that Macan will come in, and it'll be right off the first pitch, cash on the hood.
Maybe.
Maybe
I don't know.
I don't know. But
But I was just curious if the wider skill set of the XC60 being a long distance car was more attractive now that you're shopping in that price range.
Bentley.
That's true.
Now the Bentley is long distance.
Would you drive the Bentley on this 1,600-mile road trip to do the Arizona Scouty thing? Oh, okay.
I would. I have no questions about the reliability of that car at all. I think that car is superb. I think like it is possible that like little things might come up, but I do not
foresee a mechanical problem.
Not one that would be like a side of the road mechanical breakdown.
I guess all the things that have gone wrong recently are like the window switch. It's
yeah,
like
that's not going to stop us from. And that shit that like the window thing, the regulator, that was like a 35-year-old rubber thing that literally wore out. Like that's like a known problem on all that Bentley. That problem is so well known that Charlie stocks those. He had that car fixed in one day. In and out. So like
amazing.
No, I have no qualms about driving distances in the Bentley. I think it'd be perfectly fine for that. Yeah. And I do think that I would like to have one full EV in the family. Yeah. I think I think plug-in hybrids for so many people are the right choice.
Yeah, me too.
For so many people. And I've recommended this Volvo. My aunt and uncle bought an XC60 Recharge. Fucking love it. Love it. Both my parents, plug-in hybrids, love them. But we've got enough gas cars that I think I'd like to have one full electric. Eventually. We don't need shit right now. I was going to tell you about the thing that happened yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not going to use any specific
I think that's the right
names
idea.
of things for this, but we had times have been a little tough here at the Smoking Tire in terms of ad sales. They've been not great recently, and it was like getting to the point where we're sort of like, do we keep making videos at all? Because it takes a lot of time, and just the ads aren't here. And if you're not, yeah, we kind of enjoy it, but like. We don't need to make videos to get press cars. Like I could do other things to get press cars that are not time consuming if that's what we wanted. But there is some revenue, but it's not as good as where it was. And so we were literally like, it might be time to not do this anymore. And then a huge ad buy came in that was a lot of money for not much work. It was something for Instagram. It wasn't even for videos. It was an Instagram thing. And it was a big chunk of cash for not a whole lot of work.
At least for a pretty cool thing.
For a pretty cool thing. And it seemed like it wasn't going to be a lot of work. Now it was corporate, so there's always a bunch of like bullshit involved in terms of there's 17 creative agency people throwing their opinions in, and it's how about this and how about that and how about this and how about that and how about this and how about that. And there's a lot of paperwork, but ultimately the content portion of it was pretty minimal for a pretty big paycheck. And it was sort of like, oh, well, we got this easy gig and we could, this will carry us through, more or less the rest of the year, even if we sell very few ads at other things. And that was very nice. And so agreed to do it, filled out all the paperwork, had hundreds of emails back and forth with these teams, and they wanted me. And it was, well, can you wear the shirt? Or can you wear the hat? Can you do this? Can you shoot this bit here? Can you shoot this bit here? Multiple Zoom calls, a background check I submitted to a background check. And we were supposed to shoot the content this morning. And last night at 5 p.m., I got an email saying project canceled. And project canceled, and this was through an agency. Because the client, the actual advertiser, wanted a different voice, a different tone, and this content was supposed to be shot the next day and due one day after that. And so I'm like, every piece of content we've ever created is right there. The tone is pretty consistent. There's been lots of calls. We had a call yesterday about like the schedule for shooting this shit. Like, what's the fucking deal? And so and the email was incredibly corporate and offered no real explanations. Well, I was like pretty pissed. disappointed and pissed. Already put a lot of work into this. They did not offer any compensation for the time and it was real like, good luck in your future endeavors bullshit. So I called one of the creative people. They didn't pick up. They called me back a few minutes later. And I said, listen, I need a real explanation for this, not a corporate explanation. And she's like, well, I just want you to know that like we really like you, and I go, yeah, fine. Cut to what's. Well, the advertiser, the client, it's a new client, and they found something that you're entitled to your opinions. Everyone's entitled to their opinions, but it wasn't the opinion itself. It was the tone of an opinion that they didn't like. And I go, what are you talking about? There's obviously something very specific. And she's like, well, it's something on X. And I was already annoyed because she called it X and not Twitter. And I was like, I haven't used that platform in a year, right? I go, there's a pinned tweet on that. I kept the profile up, but there's a pinned tweet there that says this platform makes me fucking seethe with rage and I'm out. And she goes, yeah, I know. And I go, okay, what is it? And she goes, it's something it's not, it's not great. And I go, just read me the fucking tweet. And she goes, it's from the beginning of 2022.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay. And while I don't remember the exact wording, and I'm certainly not digging through my whole, What's
funny, and I know who the advertiser was, obviously, but anyone listening is like, were they going to do ads for Elon Musk?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did they go? Well, did they finally look into your tweet?
The tweet accused someone of licking Elon Musk's boots. That was the thing.
Okay.
And I said it was something to the effect of, does he have a gun to your head, or are you licking his boots for fun? That's basically the gist of it.
Okay.
And I was like, well, that's obviously a tweet that's like about something. Mm-hmm. It's not just something you spout into the air.
Right.
So I said, is there a context?
What you're replying to?
And she said, well, it's not a reply tweet. And I go, well, okay, but like, is it part of a thread or is it part? And she goes, I don't know. The client just sent a screenshot. They didn't send a link. And I go, look, obviously there's anger in that tweet about something. And I said, but it has absolutely nothing to do with this project. This isn't a project for Twitter. This is a project for Instagram. And she's like, yeah, I know. And it's like interesting how like your like attitude is like so much different on like Instagram and YouTube than that. And I go, yeah, did you see the pinned tweet? I left it because it made me fucking full of rage. That's why I don't use it anymore. And I was like, did no one say, hey, like maybe we should like call Matt and like ask him about this or like have a talk about it or like anything? Mm-hmm. It was just like, last minute, like found a tweet from 2 years ago and you're fired. And like, I assumed that there are things I've said on social media that have prevented us from advertising certain things. And they don't, and it usually does, but it never gets all the way this far.
Right.
It's like they just don't call in the first place. And I'd rather be myself and fucking park cars for a living than have to be Mario Lopez in order to make money on the internet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the guy's got a great physique, but I would kill myself if I had to be Mario Lopez. And so I was like, did nobody ever say like, let's have a conversation about this? It was just, and the girl from the agency said, she's like, I just want you to know, all of us, we agree with you. We think this is crazy. And now we have to find someone else by tomorrow, and we're not going to get to spend, time with our families because we have to scramble. And I go, you're getting fucking paid, lady. I don't want to hear that from you. I don't feel bad for you at all. I don't hear anything about you guys going to bat for me. I don't hear anything about you guys, I hear you rolling over for this client, and
Well, I mean, ultimately, I don't know if they had conversations where they did go to bat for you, but ultimately, if the client's writing the check, the creative agency's totally going to bend.
But
what I think sucks from, our side is that if the rule is whatever influencer person they're going to hire to work with these kinds of things, if they're going to do a social media comb, I would hope that would happen early. Like first step, they go, here's the list of people we're thinking of. They go,
I
great,
filled out
do
the
that
background check thing 2 weeks ago.
Right, so and that's a legal background check probably. I think it would be...
No, it was the same form. Because it was
they should do
put
that
your
at the same
last
time.
4 residences, put your last 4 jobs, put where you went to high school, and put your social media handles.
Right, they should comb that stuff early before it gets so far of like, well, you've been chosen. Like, before you choose me, find out, who I am. Yeah.
Because it's been there for 2 years.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's pretty fucking benign, honestly. It's not like I'm like talking about beating somebody up or something or whatever. And it's not even like that opinion is particularly controversial.
No, I think it's a really large brand, and they're probably brands are increasingly careful, which is, as you said, causing people to, they'll go and delete a bunch of their tweets, they'll delete their whole social media history, they'll comb through and get rid of stuff, whatever it is. There's like this, filing down of the edges on a person sometimes so they can be spokespeople for these companies. But that's the sad truth of where we are.
Well, here Mario Lopez is available.
Well, sure. I mean, but he's doing Entertainment Tonight, right?
But it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot of work that I put. I mean, it was probably 8 to 10 hours of work total that we are now not getting paid for.
Right.
And it was never like remotely offered.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. I'm not saying that's okay. I'm saying I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I reap what I sow. I tweeted something 2 years ago, cost us a gig, now, but it's really, really fucking shitty to get that far into it and then be shit canned 12 hours before you're supposed to deliver the content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if it was after I delivered the content, they'd have owed us the fucking money.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there would have been a lot more going on, and that would have been a whole to do. Yeah, I just think it sucks for them to not do the vetting beforehand. Yeah. That's like down to the wire. And maybe, I don't know if there are extenuating circumstances behind the scenes, but it just shouldn't be that way because you just shouldn't.
There are, and I submitted that form weeks ago.
Oh, no. I mean, they'd be like, oh, we're overworked, whatever. Like, not our problem. Like, it seems like it's their job to do the vetting before you choose the person and make sure your choice is what you want, what the client wants. Yeah.
Can't wait to see who they found in 8 hours.
Yeah. And did they comb their Twitter?
I can't wait to see what their fucking Twitter looks like.
I don't know.
Yeah. There's going to be some like, where were you on January 6th?
Or if you go back like 2014, I mean, Twitter started in 2011. Before that, I mean, people have 10 years of stuff. Like, this is something that's getting talked about more and more. It's just like if you go back far enough, you'll find a mistake that someone made. Yeah. And with social media, like, it could be public. They could say something dumb. They could make a stupid joke, whatever. And it's like, I don't know. And some of those mistakes deserve to be looked at, and people get dismissed. Yeah. But like, an opinionated joke, replying to someone when we weren't provided the context, I feel like that's a little bit less egregious. Yeah. But like, that's not even, it's not even a dumb joke. It's not like racist or anything. Like, it's nothing. And it's like I don't even use that platform anymore. Like, haven't. Like, cold turkey. So I don't know. So that's the story of that. That sucks.
Yep.
So there's merch available from Smoking Tire. So please buy a T-shirt or a hat.
Join our Patreon, and if enough people join our Patreon, we don't have to worry about ad sales ever again. I mean, that's true. That would be the best case scenario. And then we would make videos and we could give them to them. Because you don't want a fucking smoking tire that's afraid to speak their mind because they need to. Them earning a living depends on not speaking their mind. Mm-hmm. That's real shitty. Yeah, well, I think that would get away from
why we got into this. It's
Yeah.
like, here's our opinion on cars. The podcast is, here's our opinion on cars and some other things. And the joy of it is being able to like say what we want, talk about our thing, express our opinions, stumble honestly and in front of people and learn new things and whatever and all that.
Yeah. If I can't do that, I'd rather fucking park cars.
Mm-hmm.
I just, it's not worth it to not be able to speak your mind. Paycheck ain't that good.
Mm-hmm.
So, speaking of the Patreon, if you want to support this program's independence, patreon.com/The Smoking Tire Podcast. You can get the show live. You can get it, if not live, ahead of everybody else. You get an ad-free listening experience. A couple people wrote some real angry emails about the existence of ads. They don't really understand that free, if you want something fully free, it's going to have some advertising in there. And the Patreon is how you get the show without those ads.
Yep.
That option is there for you, and it is very affordable. Patreon.com/The Smoking Tire Podcast. Ted Theo Logan says that thoughts on Kippy's search for the perfect Lumina. Is Kippy looking for a fucking Lumina?
I guess.
That it was already sold. It sold today for $9,100, and not gonna lie, that looks like, I'd like to know whoever the fucking detailer did this, because wow, I wonder if that person needs a job.
That is one
That is a
Lumina.
brilliantly detailed Lumina. What a terrible car, though. Holy shit, just an awful car. I gotta call Kippy. Is he looking for a perfect
You know
Lumina?
what? 160 horsepower back then. The car's probably pretty light. That probably moves okay.
If he, I'm like maybe an episode or two behind on AYG. I did not know he was looking for a perfect Lumina. I got tickets to AYG, dude, and it's during your bachelor party.
I know.
I got to give them to somebody.
Oh,
But
yeah.
all my friends are going to be at your bachelor party. Maybe
do a
Vinny
giveaway?
wants them. Huh? Oh, I don't want to deal with that.
Vinny, honestly.
I don't want to. You probably should have. Don't email me about them. I'm gonna give them to an in-person friend. If I can't figure that out in the next 3 days, then maybe. Throw some D's on it. Says, any interest in getting a Ford Maverick Lobo press car if available? The Maverick to me seems like a lovely truck, and the people I know that owned them are very much into them. I have no interest in street performance trucks. I know that was a trend for in the 80s and 90s, but a lowered truck doesn't fucking do anything for me at all. I like my trucks to do trucks things.
Yeah, and business-wise, truck content doesn't do really well on our channel, even when the truck has 700 horsepower and blah, 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 blah. So I don't know if this would, because this is, they lowered a little bit, suspension's a little different, 240 horsepower, 2-liter. Like, it's not crazy, but I bet it's, that's
nice.
such a useful vehicle. It does look good. Our friend Corey has a Maverick. The inside's really nice. I mean, what a good daily if you are a person that has enough activities that require a small truck bed.
Right.
It thing rides and drives really nice.
Well, it's unibody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's gonna.
But it's also executed well. Like, the interior looks pretty good. And it's pretty durable. I mean, the interior is durable. I don't know about the rest of the thing, but yeah, I don't think it would do that well on the channel.
Yeah, I have interest in trying one, but I don't want to create content out of one. Clapman's freshman dorm bed. Good username. Given the sameness of experience found in electric cars and the potential difficulty of maintaining so many computerized electronic parts, will there be a place for vintage EVs at events like Pebble Beach in the future?
Oh, wow.
I think some of them.
Yeah, of course.
Some of them.
The first Tesla Roadster.
Yeah, but also
Model
like
S.
that Hispano Suiza thing that's so hideous, so we make fun of it all the time, because there's going to be like 3 of them. Like Pebble Beach, it's like there aren't really regular cars at Pebble Beach anyway. The cars that are there are like special coach-built stuff. It's shit that like millionaires back then would have had built for them. Duesenbergs and Packards. There's not a lot of like Model Ts or like regular Dodge Brothers, whatever cars at Pebble.
That's true.
So like the coach, like we have coach-built stuff today. like Ferrari's like tailor-made program,
Right.
You know, where they make a 458 look like a 512 Boxer kind of, or the SP3, or that Rolls-Royce boat tail thing Jay-Z bought, or like shit like that. That's what's going to be in the lawn at Pebble Beach.
So so the question is, will the EV versions of those be there?
Sure. I'm sure there will be some electric coach-built stuff that will be on the lawn at Pebble Beach. Yes, I do think that. Yeah. But it's not going to be like a Model 3.
That's a good point. It's a good point. I think Pebble has demonstrated that they do evolve the classes when they need to or when they want to.
Yeah,
So
but even
they will.
within the classes, it's like the wedge class of this most one, there was like concept cars and shit like that. It wasn't like a Fiero. You know, like,
Here's an Esprit and a first gen MR2.
Yeah, like there was a Countach, and there was
but it was it's always an exceptional.
a
Countach.
Lancia Stratos, but not like a Fiat X19 or a Fiero or sort of production regular cars.
Yeah.
Good question says, how does where you live influence the fun cars that you own? If you lived in the Catskills, for instance, would your garage change? I think so.
Well, I don't know. What are the roads in the Catskills like? I've never been
They're
there.
beautiful. That's where we just were. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily like it's hard in California here. Like you have to have like there's like hardcore canyon driving, and then there's like light to light traffic grid.
Right.
And there isn't that sort of meandering, beautiful sort of nice cruise. So there's cars that like are great as long as they're moving.
Yeah.
Like you're not stuck in traffic in the Catskills. So like there's a car, you could buy a car that like, it might like not like traffic. It might like overheat if it's just in traffic for too long, but you could never have that car in LA because you'd fucking freak out.
Got it.
And
the roads tend to be really smooth in New York.
Yeah, the back roads certainly are very good.
So you don't need to worry about, because here we have so many different types of pavement, concrete, earthquakes,
Yeah.
a lot of like juddering and hard edges.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's as much of that in the mountains of New York that I've experienced, or the East Coast.
And I might be less likely to buy a convertible in New York.
Yeah, I would be more likely to get all-wheel drive.
Yeah.
Because then I could do snow tires in the summer, in the winter, and then have a fun car all the time.
Yeah, like here, like with a I would never buy an all-wheel drive 911 in California. I would never buy an all-wheel drive car. I don't want to say never, but if given the choice, I would not take the all-wheel drive version of any car in California because I don't need it. But in New York, it could really be helpful.
Yeah.
But in general, I think there is some, particularly the fact that it's such a two-car. It's a two-car culture here, where you have your fun car and your daily in LA, because the two types of driving are so distinct. Like going back to Greenwich, where my parents live, every drive to the grocery store is a beautiful meander through the woods. Every drive. And so when I had my John Cooper Works Mini as an only car, perfect. Perfect. Because every drive was a fun drive. But like, I wouldn't necessarily need a two-car thing there. I could have one fun car, and if it was all-wheel drive and I got snow tires, like when I had my Audi S4, that was a great car for there because every drive the handling came into play. That's whereas that doesn't really work here.
Yeah, true.
I don't want to be classist and be like, you have to have two cars, but it definitely makes your life easier if you have a daily and then a fun car, because those are two
but
different
also
missions.
we know plenty of people that do that and they don't have expensive cars.
Yeah.
But they still people. You could have a rough 350Z.
Yeah.
That's your weekend drift car or weekend car. And those people will still own, like Adam.
Dude,
Adam had that.
Two of our guys who work,
exactly.
Wait, 1, 2, 3 of our guys who work here that are like entry-level guys have dailies and sports cars.
Yes. And then, exactly.
It happens at all income levels. Yeah, if you're a car enthusiast, you're going to have a daily and a sports car here, and I think there's a lot of places where you don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. El Gato, where do you test cars in the OC area? I ain't telling you, son. OC is a very interesting place because it's where so many cool cars are built and modified, and there ain't fucking nowhere to drive them. You got to go down to Palomar, south, Or there's the road that we use for the EX90, which is off of Ortega Highway. It's a side road, and it's only okay.
And it's not that long.
It's not that long. It's not that fast, and it's fine to make a video, but it's not a good place to just drive for fun.
I mean, it's the terrain of OC is even more desert than LA. I mean, we have how many different national park mountain ranges like right here, or state park mountain ranges? Like 4 different mountain ranges above LA. So you don't really have that in Orange County.
Yeah, I would go. I'd depending on where in Orange County you are, I'd probably go south to Palomar. Mm-hmm. Yeah, or possibly east towards Palm Springs. Yeah, nowhere close, unfortunately. But having said that, for us this morning, it was a 45-minute drive there and a 55-minute drive home to and from the mountain. So it's not like in LA. It's not like we're right there.
Yes.
We have a haul as well. Okay, Murph is an engineer who works for the city. He said, going back to your podcast earlier this year when talking about road design to improve safety, you stated a lot can be done with paint. And you're right, but as an engineer who works for a city, when we complete road designs with increased focus on safety, in my experience, there's a lot of pushback from road users, and the constant complaining from residents or city council can wear on staff to the point where engineers don't want to put themselves out there and keep the status quo. Any advice for avoiding the negative feedback from choices you know are correct? I mean, advice. The ask is advice for avoiding the negative feedback. Well, it depends on what they're complaining about. I mean, is the complaining that the thing is? I think everybody wants the roads to be safer, right? No, you ask 100 people, and all 100 of them would say, "Yes, I'd like safer roads," because no one's gonna vote for more dangerous roads. And you go, but they also, what they don't want to say is they don't want to be the least bit inconvenienced by it.
Yes. Because that's probably the part that's going unsaid by Murph. Like, he's like, hey, we make these changes, they're safer, but people get mad about them. Well, why do they get mad? You know, did you go from 3 lanes to 2? Because as we've talked about, you know, smaller areas make people slow down. Did you add bollards that took up parking places like they did on Venice? You know, there's all these different changes like that. So I don't know. I mean, I think we're not engineers. We're not fielding those questions. So we're kind of on the other side, like calling for those things. And we just always refer to the science. We go to, hey, this person studied this and found, and we are in support of that. And we will be inconvenienced if it means the road is safer.
Right. And you also have to define road users. Road users, I think of as, or many people will think of as people in their cars. Well, the pedestrians are also road users. And so I would make sure the pedestrians have a voice there, because a lot of times improving road safety with paint means improving pedestrian and cyclist safety.
Right.
And so you need to make sure that the people in cars understand that in a lot of ways, those humans are not being thought of as equal humans. The priority of the car driver is not being thought of in equal priority of the pedestrian and the cyclist. And those are humans too. And as we learn in the stuff we've learned about parking and traffic and stuff like that, so many road designs are subsidizing car owners and car drivers at the expense of people who do not own or use cars, like pedestrians and cyclists, etc. And so if those people aren't given equal priority, then, you know, the best way to curb climate change, to improve safety, to improve our world, is to actually find ways to encourage people to drive less and walk or cycle more. Right. That's more than EVs, more than this. Like, yes, we still need cars. We obviously will need cars. But like making places more walkable and more habitable for cyclists and pedestrians is good for the environment. It's good for safety. And I think a lot of people just don't either. Well, maybe they do want to, but I think a lot of people go, I want safety, but the subtext is I don't want to be inconvenienced at all.
Of course, it's NIMBY anything. It's like, please yes, I empathize with this problem, but I don't want to have to change my life at all to help address the problem.
Yeah. So Sean Finney looking for one sports car to drive year-round in the Mid-Atlantic. Would you rather own a C8,
the Mid-Atlantic?
C8 Corvette or a 4-cylinder Cayman GTS?
What's a Corvette? That came out long after I was created.
Well, we did a Corvette versus Cayman video.
Yep.
I mean, you could basically you could extrapolate from, and I've also done a 4-cylinder Cayman GTS video. 4-cylinder Cayman GTS is a stealth good value, actually.
You like it more than I do. I think it's the Miata Cayman. The engine is fine. It's pretty quick. There's no like theater to it. It's lacking some experience, but you still get all the handling benefits, the geometry, and all the attention of Porsche and the Porsche build quality. So that's true. It is a stealth good car.
I mean, the Corvette is going to have the better engine. You know, it's going to be faster. It probably won't age as well. I mean, literally the materials won't age as well. Porsches tend to hold up pretty good. A Porsche's always a Porsche. I mean, you know, and Corvettes sort of, they age in a way that Porsches don't seem to age. But...
And also, Haggerty just posted an article 2 days ago. Corvette C8s are depreciating faster than C7s.
That probably only applies to manual C7s. I bet the automatics are depreciated pretty fast.
Maybe that's true. I didn't look at it.
Look, mid-engine Oh boy, you fucked that up. Go down. Let's see. That, well.
I mean, it says 3 or it just says average.
Well, I'm not surprised the gap is shrinking as the gap between them is shrinking as there become more and more used early C8 Corvettes.
True.
You know, they're not seen as the exotic new thing anymore.
This also may factor in the dealer markup, so the fall is greater, whereas like the C7 wasn't marked up so aggressively. That might be a component.
Sure, but I bet if you filtered just by manual, there'd be a big difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, if you ask me, I would rather have the Cayman, even the 4-cylinder. I think it's a fast car. I think there are tuning options for that GTS. I like the C8 Corvette. It's a very nice car. You got to get the Z51.
True.
But the brand new press cars that we've driven versus that one that we rented felt a little different.
Yeah, that's true. And I think it also really depends on what your local driving area is like. Like
Mid-Atlantic.
No, but I mean, I don't know what the roads are like. I don't know how far away they are from a good road. Because like the Corvette, I could have more fun in a straight line. Noise, acceleration. The Cayman, you know, with the 4-cylinder, like I need to be living near mountains and using them or a track frequently. Otherwise, it'll just feel kind of meh. Sure.
I'd probably rather have the Cayman. Ryan wants a video review of the EX90. There is one. There's one coming. It's in the queue. We overshot in the month of July, and so we have.
He also just heard one.
We also just got a review. Okay, Brad Rudisil. Zach, hypothetically, you got an X5 as a daily or tow vehicle, leaving your M3 open for shenanigans. What do you do with it to maximize your fun to dollar ratio?
I would just take the seats out of it. I'd probably do a half cage in the back, but I wouldn't. Oh, and I do a big brake kit. But otherwise, that. I mean, if I was going to tow it with I wouldn't make it better for street driving. If I was going to tow it, then it would just be a dedicated track car. And if I was going to maximize it for street enjoyment, I wouldn't need the X5 because then I just have two things that have check engine lights on. Let's be real. So. But I don't know. I'm pretty happy with the suspension. I'm pretty happy with the stance and the wheels and everything. So I think I wouldn't want to go like full angle kit and hydro handbrake and all that stuff. I would have a nice middle ground car that I could take to a track day or take to Apple Valley, and it would work well for both.
Apple Valley's a drift track.
Sorry, yeah, Apple Valley's a drift track.
A little inside baseball there. Ivan says, what is the usual hypercar buyer stereotype? I feel like the Chiron buyer differs from the Koenigsegg and the Pagani buyer. Since you've met them, do you see car enthusiasts or people buying a new toy and attention? I think you have to be a car enthusiast to spend that kind of money on a car. I think it's very, very rare that you meet someone who has a hypercar or multiple hypercars that isn't a car enthusiast.
Yeah, they just bought it because of it might make them cool.
Yeah. I mean, the worst thing you can say about any of those folks is they buy them and then don't drive them and then flip them or something. That's like, it's not what I would do. I wouldn't see a car. I wouldn't buy a car specifically so that it's a 0 mile appreciating asset, even if that's true. Because if you're rich enough to buy one of those, you could probably make more money doing something else. You know, and then like my dream would be to like be rich enough to put 40,000 miles on an F40 and go, well, yeah, I've lost money on that, but damn, was that fun.
Right.
That would be great. That's my idea of what being a billionaire would be. And the actual billionaires I've met, some of them don't think about miles at all. They're trying to have a good time, and they might have a lot of cars because they can afford to buy a lot of cars, and there's only so much time in the world, so not so many of them get driven, but they don't think about miles or think about resale. And then other people are just talking about that flip game. And so the hypercar buyer stereotype, I feel like the coolest people to buy hypercars, like I feel like the cool people, what's a hypercar for cool people?
T50.
Yep, probably. I bet they're cool.
And that's, how do we define hypercar? That one's kind of in the middle between super and hyper.
It's not really it's not a hypercar, but the people that I know who've bought Singers and Gunthers usually are pretty cool.
Well, because they are spending not Koenigsegg, well, actually nowadays with Singers, yeah, they're spending Koenigsegg money for something that looks like a Porsche hot rod, and it's a bit of if you know, you know. I mean, Singer's big now, but if you pull those two cars, a Singer and a Koenigsegg, into a parking lot full of non-car people, and you ask which one's more expensive, they're going to be drawn to the spaceship, of course. So,
I don't know a lot of Bugatti owners. I know like 3.
That feels like the Rolex of hypercars because it's respected. It looks awesome and it performs well, and it's from a company that has, you know,
it's like a real car company.
Well, it's 100-year whatever reputation, you know, with real history. Whereas Koenigsegg,
backed by Volkswagen,
which I love, backed by Volkswagen. Koenigsegg, you might have to explain to somebody what Koenigsegg is, why, you know, CVK is a genius, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. I feel like the Koenigsegg people are real. They're real driving enthusiasts. High percentage of financial criminals. That Lou Leroux guy was like the head of the Koenigsegg Club. They were running like a fucking multi-level marketing scheme. Mad shady.
I don't know. Pagani, I mean, I think you'd have to separate them maybe by manufacturer. Like, who's the Pagani buyer? Who's the Koenigsegg? Who's the Bugatti?
Just based on who I saw hovering around at the Quail. Like this is the best way I could see is like who's hovering around what booth at the Quail. That's how I would really, because I don't know a lot of these people. The people hovering around the booth at the Koenigsegg booth are nerds who want to meet Christian and look at this engineering.
Right.
The fucking people at the Pagani booth are all wearing their wealth. They're just wearing it. Everything is like Balenciaga this and Chanel that, and they've got the big fucking Jacob watch, and they've got chains, and they've got some fucking giant ass like Ferragamo sunglasses, and their wife has some Versace shit and like a fucking little poodle in a bag, you know, and they're just the people you go, I don't want to spend 3 seconds with you.
Well, they are like extroverted in their decor.
Yes.
and the Pagani is that. I mean, it is a very extreme looking vehicle that is made by a super fastidious person. And I think engineers can appreciate that side of Pagani. I know I do, because I'm like, wow, they made everything. That's amazing. But if you just look at that one versus Koenigsegg, the Pagani is sparklier.
Yeah, it's fashion. It's more more fashion, for sure.
More fashion.
I'm driving the Utopia in 3 weeks, which I'm kind of stoked. Not 3 weeks, 5 weeks. But I'm doing it for Road and Track, which I'm pretty stoked on because I haven't driven a Pagani in a very long time, and I'm sure it will be fun. And then Bugatti, I feel like, is the more traditional collector. They've probably got a bunch of Ferraris. They've been through the Ferraris.
Yeah.
They've been through the Lambos. It's just sort of where you go when you graduate through the hypercar ranks. Older money, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Older money, deep allocations.
Because that was also, I mean, the Veyron came out when it was kind of the only hypercar. That was the beginning of that definition. I mean,
2006.
Right, almost twice the horsepower of the McLaren F1, which is before that. So that was like the beginning of hypercars, and it's almost the old answer. And I bet younger, super rich people that made their money in the tens and teens, in tech or whatever, they're like, oh, well, what's the new shiny thing?
Yeah, and it's an older crowd too. Young people are not that interested in Bugattis. I mean, like rappers were into them for a minute, but like younger, it's that the rappers kind of moved past them. The rappers don't fuck with Bugattis anymore.
I would fuck with a Chiron. Oh my god!
I mean,
that was amazing.
I would too, but like it's not like rappers aren't, because I think they realized they're a little silly.
The Bugattis are.
Yeah, like a Bugatti. If you're a rapper, a Bugatti's not that much more baller than a Lambo. You know what I mean? And it's like triple the cost to maintain.
Very true. Yeah.
Good question though. Nathan Reynolds, what's your favorite New Balance model? 990s, baby, all day, classic. I wish they made the colors I wanted in fucking widths. Gunnar wants Audi to lend my mom an EV to make the point that she'd be a perfect fit for an EV.
You drive this.
Yeah. Listen, I think it's a funny idea. If my mom wants to write the story, sure. I have stopped trying to I had a bad experience trying to get my mom to buy a car. I got her to get a Volvo 740 Turbo when I was 8. And I convinced her that was the right car for her. When I was 8 years old, she ended up lemoning the car. It was a bad car. It was not a good car.
Trauma.
And so she's never let that go.
Or forgiving you.
She's never let that go.
Really?
Never.
She still gives you shit about it?
Yeah. My mom never lets anything go. And so my mom still thinks I lied about going to this movie when I was like 14 and does not believe me. And I absolutely went to the fucking movie. I would tell you if I lied to my mom about this. This is a dumb thing to lie about at 42. But she doesn't believe I did. But I also, when my mom got the first RX
so much about
300,
you.
I thought I was like, don't get this, whatever this crossover thing is, get a Tahoe. Get a real, if you're going to get an SUV, because she was going to go from a minivan to an SUV from the Mercury Villager, Nautica. And I was like, if you're going to get an SUV, get an SUV. And she's like, I don't want that giant thing.
She was right.
And she was right. She was absolutely right. I was wrong and she was right. Tahoes were not that cool, and the RX 300 was the perfect car for my mom.
Tahoes are amazing, but I think she chose the right car for her.
I don't give her car advice anymore. That's it. Buy what you want, Mom. Hope you're happy with it. If you're not, I didn't say nothing about nothing. She got the hybrid because my dad's a different story. He will listen to me.
I was going to say, I don't try to convince my mom of anything or argue with her anymore. I just go, sure.
Yeah. No, but my dad will listen to me, and I told him about the plug-in hybrid, and he's now 100%. And then when my mom saw my dad, then she was in. So if my dad in 3 or 4 years were to get a full electric Cayenne, if that comes out, and loves it, then she would probably follow suit. As long as she's happy, I don't need to sell her on anything. Apparently Doug DeMuro is using the word heinous 100 times a day, and that's somehow my fault. I would like a commission. Chris Navio says, compare the 2019 Aston Vantage and the 2019 AMG GTC. I mean, these were cars I drove 5 fucking years ago, dude.
Well, the interior.
That was the first gen of the new Aston. It was, right? Of the current Vantage. That's when that came out, right? Yes.
No, wait,
It's not the end of the old one.
The new one? I mean, I just went on the launch for the new one.
No, the one before that.
The one before that.
Yeah.
I think that was...
That's 19, right?
19
to 23.
I don't think it's the first year, but that's early.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's that one.
Yes, correct.
Yeah,
with the AMG
It's the first
motor.
with the AMG twin turbo V8.
Fine.
The one that felt a little bit underpowered.
You want the AMG.
Oh, yeah, you do.
You absolutely want
Just
the
look at the
AMG.
interiors, for sure.
The interior's better. The gearbox is better.
The Aston wheels is square.
Better.
It looks better.
Yeah.
Yes.
That early Aston Vantage was an unfinished car.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely want the AMG GTC.
Yes.
100%. Aiden Squires, would you ever try to buy the same make, model, and year for your first car just for fun, or would it be for nostalgia and probably not hold up as well as you remembered it? Could be both.
Both.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
One does not exclude the other.
Yeah. But the answer is yes. Like I would totally
I wouldn't
go buy
buy
a
the
65
exact
Pontiac
one.
again.
Like I had a Mustang GT that my first car was the Subaru Legacy, which was not that fun. But the Mustang,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
but I wanted a Cobra R. So I tried to like make one out of a GT. And I made a nice little car, but I would probably rather have the thing that I wanted and couldn't get than the thing I actually had.
I would get. I had a Pontiac Le Mans, and I would get that. I wouldn't jump to a GTO because they don't do anything different. And actually, the Le Mans is less valuable, so I can beat the shit out of it, which is what I'd want to do. So I would definitely do the same thing. Get the same thing.
Was that it?
Yeah,
That's it. That's it. All right. Well, thank you to our patrons. Please, if you're not a patron, please consider it. It would really help us remain independent and not reliant on advertisers. And the more independent we can be, the longer we can do this show.
What do they get if they sign up for Patreon, Matt Farah?
You get the live stream. You get the show early. You get an extra show every month if you're a pro driver. You get an ad-free listening experience on both the audio platforms and YouTube. And you get early access to Smoke and Tire merch drops that are just for patrons.
Mm-hmm. And the ad-free version will go on your podcast app. It works just like the normal podcast, unless someone had a problem with something called Podbean, which I think there are some applications that I believe stopped developing their app, and that's not our fault. I apologize if it doesn't work for you, but you may have to switch applications.
Yeah, we do that. Yeah. Thank you for listening. We will see you guys next time. Bye.